Atmosfear by Nobody. Chapter 2. At the Gates of Doom. Truth be told, I had been reduced to a nervous wreck by the time I got on my connecting flight from Casablanca to Conakry. I was wondering if the rioters had already burned down the entire airport before we could even get there. Or would a stray bullet from some third-rate soldier's gun pass through my guitar, or through something even more valuable, once I would hit the streets of that city in turmoil? As I made my way to my seat in the middle of the aircraft, I noticed a benevolent-looking young man seated next to my designated place. I blurted something polite to him with my cretin French, having heard that most Guineans did not speak English. But to my surprise, he smiled and replied to me in perfect English. "Good evening. Thankfully, the flight is not much delayed. We shall be in Conakry according to schedule, I hope." "Ah, yeah," I said with a shaky voice. "Sure. That's a great thing to know." "Are you nervous?" he asked me. "Well," I said, "it is my first trip to Africa, so yeah, I guess I am." "Are you coming here all by yourself?" "Oh no," I said. "Or yes, actually, but I'm supposed to meet a friend right there at the airport. If he's, not in prison or whatever. I mean, the news are pretty scary, to be honest." "Okay," he said. "You mean the political situation now?" "Yeah, that I was about to say that bastard of a president, but then I realized that it was not perhaps the best way to approach the subject. So instead I said, "Yeah, the riots and all that. Pretty crazy, huh?" "Don't worry," my neighbor said. "Those protests are concentrated only around certain parts of Conakry, and you can easily avoid them. And because you were just a tourist, nobody has anything against you. I'm sure this friend of yours knows where to take you safely." "Well," I said hesitantly, "I sure hope he does." "Are you going to stay in Conakry for long?" "Only for this night," I said. "Tomorrow we're planning to go to a place called Kindia, I believe." "Ah, Kindia. It's a wonderful place, very peaceful. You shall be perfectly safe there. You know, Kindia has the largest military garrison in all of Guinea. Soldiers are everywhere." "Really?" I said, wondering to myself if it would be so grand to have tanks and machine guns and God knows what kinds of killing machinery all over the place. But I did not press the subject, choosing to introduce myself instead. Shaking his hand, I learned that the name of my new acquaintance was Adama. He was a university student living in London, which explained his proficiency in the language. After not being able to visit his family for the last 2 years, Adama was now on his way home for the holidays, with a great sense of jubilation. "Wow," I said when he told me about all of this. "It must have been hard to stay away for so long from home?" "Of course," he answered dismissively, "but my family has worked so hard to get me in that university that really it is a small price to pay." "I can imagine," I said, having read that half of the population of Guinea lived below the poverty line and were illiterate. Education to them was a way out of misery, a promise of a brighter future that was exceedingly difficult to achieve if one wasn't well connected with the small circle of the president's cronies. But, Adama concluded with a hopeful smile, only a couple of years more, and then I will be permanently back with my people. This genial conversation alleviated my fears for the time being. Adama also offered me the use of his cell phone once we would land, so that I could call my partner's Guinean phone number. Such abundant sympathy coming from a complete stranger was something I'd never experienced during a flight before. Most of the time, there had not been a single word exchanged between people, especially those of the northern temperament, who were seated next to each other for hours on end, like they were some grotesque mannequins in transit. Also, if you want, Adama told me as we dined on a fairly decent airline meal, I could give you my phone number and we could meet up for coffee sometime in the city. This proposition made me smile once again. In Finland, complete strangers never offered to meet up for coffee like that, unless it was intended to be a romantic date. One was destined to wade through life with only a small circle of acquaintances, surrounded by nameless, lonely strangers. "Yeah, please do," I said. "That would be really nice. You've been such great help to me that I want to buy you a beer somewhere." "Sorry," he said and smiled. "I don't drink." "Oh, excuse me," I mumbled, remembering that this was a mainly Muslim country that I was about to enter. "Make it a double espresso, then." Right after we arrived to the Conakry airport, I felt like I was stepping through a wormhole into another age. Modern European airports all looked alike in their glitzy sterility, but this place had character. The walls of the narrow corridors were crudely hand-painted with zebra stripes, and the orange-colored floor tiles under my feet were wobbling as we made our way to the passport checkpoint. There was no onslaught of vulgar advertisements or soulless fashion boutiques. There was only a bare concrete hall where we would have our biometrics taken by officials inside their glass boxes. As we were waiting for our turn, Adama asked if I now wanted to borrow his phone and call my partner. I thanked him for his kindness and took up his offer, hoping that Mohammed had sent me the correct number. "Hello?" said the familiar low voice on the other end, like a promise of security in an unknown terrain. "Hey, man," I said with a sigh of relief. "It's me, Tom. I just landed. Are you here at the airport?" "All right," he said. "Yeah, man. I'm here after they check your passport. See you soon." I gave the phone back to my benefactor and told him that everything was all right. Thanks to him, all my anxiety had been alleviated. Naturally, I could have used my own phone with its European SIM card, though it would have cost a bit more to do so. But the main thing was the way that I felt welcomed to that new, frightening environment with the help of one compassionate face. Such a face I had rarely seen in Finland in all my years living there. Over there, you had the nanny state to provide services for you, and if that wasn't enough, tough titty. After getting my photos taken and receiving a stamp of approval on my 90-day travel visa from the officer in his glass cage, I was immediately jostled by a colleague of his who was prowling about the exit doors. "Hey, mister," he said to me in French. "How much money are you transporting to Guinea? Did you declare it?" My initial reflex to the strange question was that I had done something wrong. I was still in the Finnish mindset that blindly trusts authority, not realizing that these officers were so poorly paid that they resorted to mild forms of extortion. But before I could come up with an answer, Mohammed appeared from behind him and put his hand on my shoulder. "That's okay, Captain," he told the disappointed hustler, who instantly stepped back with a frown. "This guy is with me." My last dregs of nervousness went out the window with those words. We embraced each other like a pair of long-lost brothers. Mohammed was dressed in a loose football shirt, camo shorts, and sandals, with a baseball cap on top of his long bundle of dreadlocks. Radiating vitality and good humor, it was as if he'd just come from the beach with his sunglasses down his nose. I, on the other hand, was still wrapped in my winter clothes, coming from the brutal sub-zero temperatures of Helsinki. "Rasta," he said with an exuberant laugh, "welcome to Africa." I thanked him with equal warmth and noticed that we were still inside the no-entry zone in the arrivals hall. Besides us, there were only security personnel lounging about, as well as the tired, sweaty passengers, who were now flocking to the luggage drop-off point a little further back. "How did you manage to get in here?" I asked. "You see," he said with a mysterious grin, "I have my own little system going on. Come on, where is your guitar?" We were able to salvage my acoustic guitar inside its travel case from the ragged baggage line in one piece. After this, Mohammed escorted me past the group of other passengers who were still waiting to present their passports at the exit doors for the last time. But we just waltzed right past them like nobody's business. "What's this?" I begged him as we entered the public side of the airport. "Have you become a minister here or something?" "Ambassador," he joked evasively and led me through the small, unassuming main hall of the airport. The place was teeming with throngs of welcoming parties, including perhaps the one waiting for Adama as well. Adama! That brought my guardian angel back to my mind. I'd forgotten to say goodbye to him in my excitement. Well, I thought, may God bless him, and I will call him later now that I had his phone number. "Brother Tom, here in Guinea," Mohammed rejoiced and slapped my arm as if to make sure I wasn't just an apparition. "I don't believe it." "Me neither," I said while suppressing a yawn. "Are you tired?" he asked. "Long trip, huh?" "Yeah. But hell, I'm just so happy to be here right now." "Me too, man. Let's get out of here. Now you'll see this guy who helped us over there when you arrive. You see what I do? I just walk in like that and let all the other guys wait in line. Because I tell my friend that this is your first time here in Africa. You're tired and you don't know shit about what's going down." "Sure thing," I agreed. "That one guy was just about to rifle through my wallet and take my money when you came over." "I know," Mohammed grunted as we pushed our way towards the main doors. "Those asshole guys there, they want to fuck up this Fote every way and rule his head." "Fote?" I asked. "What is that?" "White man," Mohammed responded and pointed at me. "You are Fote, boy. Remember that word. It's Susu language." "Sure thing," I said, and stopped short on my feet once I felt the sweltering, moist night air hit me outside the main doors. It was like stepping into a sauna, except mixed with car exhaust fumes and what smelled like bushfires. Right in front of us, over the roofs of office buildings, loomed the moon, full and gold-colored, submerged in a misty halo that extended over the dark, star-studded horizon. The roar of distant traffic was an almost physically tangible sensation coming from outside the airport perimeter. "Oh, wow!" I exclaimed and began to take off my overcoat as I broke into sweat immediately after exiting the air-conditioned airport hall. "Give me a second," I shouted to my partner, who was already strutting way ahead of me in his excitement. He returned with a grin and grabbed my guitar case. "Yeah, man," he said. Take all that shit off. Helsinki was cold, huh? It was a damn icebox as always. So, who is this friend of yours who helped us? There, man, Mohammed hollered and waved his hand at two men who came walking towards us. Hey, commando! One of these guys was a big, burly soldier by the look of him. He had a full camo uniform, a red beret on his head, and a pistol holster strapped to his side. His scarred, gold-toothed, grinning face indicated good humor, as well as a promise of categorical brutality if necessitated. This is Commando, Mohammed told me as the man made a stiff military salute with a smile on his face, and then shook my hand with an iron grip. Commando is a red beret, professional soldier man. That is a good name for you then, I said in French. Nice to meet you, Commando. Thank you so much for your help. No problem, the man said with a voice that vibrated with authority and boot camp songs. Welcome to Guinea, Mr. Tom. And this, Mohammed said, is my cousin, Abdu. The other guy, who was dressed in civilian clothes and looked far less intimidating, came over to shake my hand as well. Without another word, he took my rucksack off my back and put it on his own shoulder. Photo! Commando shouted, as if we were in some kind of a drill, and took his phone out in order to take a group picture of us. With my arms around Mohammed and his cousin, I felt wonderfully safe and didn't need to force a smile for the camera. After that, it was Abdu's and then Mohammed's turn to take photos of us as well, and we fooled around the entryway for quite some time. After these ceremonies were done, we walked over to Commando's car nearby. It was a roughed-up black station wagon with darkened windows and a bass-driven stereo system that began to boom with Afrobeats music when he started the engine. I got in the back seat with Mohammed, and we started down the road towards the metropolis of Conakry itself. Once past the low iron gates of the airport, I stared out of the open side window in order to get a view of the scenery, despite the darkness of the night that was illuminated only by spurious streetlights, which were few and far between. We entered the congested highway haphazardly, since there were no traffic lights, but only a steady, incredibly noisy and smoky stream of old cars, erratically buzzing motorcycles, and hulking trucks that all seemed to be blowing their horns at the same time. Whenever the traffic came to a halt, a not too uncommon incident, scores of pedestrians would scurry between the vehicles in order to get to the other side of the road. All around this potholed asphalt highway stood roughly made cement buildings in long, multicolored, and uneven rows. They were not tall to begin with, but quickly decreased even further in size as we drove along. Some shacks had been put together with nothing but sticks, planks, or even rusty sheet metal, reminding me of oversized doghouses. Next to these dust-covered huts, I could see the dark profiles of men and women congregating around open campfires. "What are those fires for?" I asked my partner. "For some people, that is their only kitchen," he said, and then suddenly hollered, "Boy, put your head inside!" I quickly drew my head back in the car in order to avoid a frantically swerving van that might have ended my trip very short indeed. Most of the cars that I saw roaring around us looked like props from a post-apocalyptic movie, with their multicolored, battered parts that were pieced together in the most imaginative ways. Each car seemed to be filled to the brim with squeezed-up passengers and had mounds of various objects fastened to their roofs. As there were no indicators for lanes or turns, everyone used their car horns, hand gestures, and flashing headlights to communicate with each other. I had to admire the skill these people seemed to have in avoiding each other's vehicles by a hair's breadth. "I'll never complain about the traffic in Helsinki again," I said to Mohammed, and he laughed. "You still want to rent that motorbike here?" he asked. "Like you say before?" "Oh, hell no. I had no idea it would be like this. But tell me, how is the political situation in here now?" "What do you mean?" he asked. "I mean, I read from the news that things are getting pretty violent here. You know, with the protests and everything." "Boy," he answered heatedly, "that's just bullshit. Don't believe all that stuff you read. There's nothing like that going on here. Hey, Commando!" He asked our chauffeur about this subject, and the answer came that all the horror stories I'd read previously were just a bunch of Western propaganda. This didn't surprise me, though, since it was coming from a man who actually worked for the president. But, judging by the outlook of the life on the streets as I saw it through the car window, nothing serious seemed to be brewing, at least in this particular area. "Tom from Finland," Mohammed said, still sounding incredulous and slapping my thigh. "Helsinki boy here in Guinea. Oh my God. How is Helsinki?" "Pretty damn cold, brother. But it's not going to be snowing in here, huh?" "Not cold in here ever, man," he said. "Sun shining every day. Only in rain season you don't get sun. Then it rain and rain every fucking day for 3 or 4 months. But now it's perfect, I tell you." "Awesome," I said. "I just gotta go buy some sun cream first thing tomorrow." "You don't take sun cream with you?" Mohammed asked with surprise. "No," I admitted, starting to feel like a fool. "I was, trying to travel lightly, so I thought, We will find that," my partner said, and spread his arm to cover the sprawling city in front of us like he owned it all. "This is Conakry. They have everything here." After a while, Commando turned the car away from the main road, and I realized that asphalt was a rare commodity in this country. Every branch of street that led away from the highway was nothing but sand-covered ground, interspersed by muddy potholes and sharp, projecting rocks that made us bounce around uncontrollably inside the car. At this street corner leading into the rugged terrain, there lingered a large group of young men beside their motorcycles with the engines turned off, looking around while chatting as if waiting for something. "Are those taxis?" I asked. "Yeah, man," my partner said. "Crazy driver boys looking for fast money." "Almost everybody uses moto taxis here," Commando added in French. "Lots of accidents happen too. You better be careful." I could imagine that easily, seeing some of those unhelmeted daredevils flying off into the night with reckless speed. I made a silent prayer that we wouldn't have to use them to move around in the city. Jumbling down a quite empty pathway that had no street lamps, our car's headlights served as the only thing to help us navigate through the darkness. On both sides we were flanked by low, dimly lit stone houses that looked like they had stood there from the time of Muhammad, the Prophet I mean, and not having seen much maintenance ever since. But, despite their cracked walls and crooked doors, these dwellings had a tenderly human touch about them. Each one was decorated individually with various little details, and most importantly, they all bustled with neighborly activity. In the doorways and dusty courtyards, I could see casually dressed adults and children, engaged in conversation, games, and household duties. This was a world apart from the uniform, concrete cubicles where my compatriots in Helsinki lived side by side, all the while being total strangers to one another. According to one statistic that I had read, a third of Finns considered their lives very lonely, despite living in such close quarters. But that didn't seem to be a problem here. Fote! Fote! I heard children shout while pointing at me, and even some of the adults turned to look and waved their hands as our car crawled past them. I greeted them back with a smile, as this kind of attention was something completely new to me. "You're getting famous," Commando said with a laugh. It must have been a rare sight for the locals. Ever since leaving the airport, I had not seen a single white person besides myself. This wasn't surprising, since I knew that Guinea remained yet mostly undiscovered by tourists. "What is this area called?" I inquired, trying in vain to see any street signs in the seemingly never-ending maze of houses and side streets. "This is Cimetière," my partner said. "Sounds like cemetery," I noted. "It is cemetery, man. Look." He pointed to our right, where behind a low cement wall I could see a vast muddy burial ground with slanting headstones extending far into the night. "It is the biggest cemetery in this region," Commando said. "In the rain season, it can get pretty messy with all that water coming down." "Oh, wow," I said, imagining corpses that would be floating down the streets. "So, we're going to a hotel, or what's the plan?" "It's a house of my friend," Mohammed replied. "I take it because I know you need rest now. You've been traveling so fucking long these days." "Yes, indeed," I confirmed, though the strain of the journey had actually escaped my mind, being so stimulated by all the sights around me. "Tomorrow when we go to Kindia," he continued, "it's over 3-hour drive, something like 5, 6, 7 hours with car." "Damn," I said. "How far is it?" "I think over 100 kilometers. "Well, it must be," I said. "I mean, if it takes so damn long." My partner decided to ask our driver. 120 kilometers, Commando responded, while blowing his horn in order to get past a group of teenagers who were pushing a huge wheelbarrow that seemed to contain over a dozen car tires. 120 kilometers from here to Kindia?" I asked. "But how the hell can it take 7 hours to drive there?" "Man," Mohammed said, "you don't know that road is fucked up. It's crazy, I'm telling you. Every day, so many people are traveling that way from Conakry to everywhere in Guinea. You don't believe, but tomorrow you will see." "All right then," I said with slight apprehension, thinking about how many accidents had to take place on that dreadful highway. Commando finally stopped the car in front of a tall, solid metal gate. Behind it stood a big 3-story mansion with a wide courtyard that was surrounded by 7-foot brick walls. The place looked so princely in the middle of that humble suburb that I could barely believe my eyes. We started to unload our things, and while doing so, I stared at the impressive building with its many balconies, whitewashed walls, and exquisite stone pillars. "Whoa," I enthused. "That place is fit for a king." "Yeah, man," Mohammed said while banging his fist on the iron gate. "It is a house of a big general here in Conakry." "Yes, he's my leader," Commando said proudly. "But right now he has an assignment outside the city." I thanked my stars for this piece of news. I didn't appreciate people whose livelihood depended on making war and ordering death, but a minion of President Condé sounded like an especially undesirable neighbor to have. Mohammed kept hammering against the metal door for quite some time, but nothing seemed to come of it, despite its loud reverberations through the quiet night. "What the fuck?" he said and took out his phone. "That guy been smoking weed and sleeping again, or what?" But before he was able to place his call, we heard the bolts screeching on the other side of the gate. Soon enough it opened with a squeal, and a lanky, red-eyed guy peered through it. "Kanja, God damn it," Commando said. "What took you so long?" "Sorry, guys," Kanja moaned while rubbing his eyes and came over to shake my hand. "Hello, mister. Happy arrival." Commando bade us good night, gave my partner a slightly wry look for some reason, and then hopped back in his car with Abdu to head back into the night. Me and Mohammed carried my luggage through the open gate, assisted by Kanja. The courtyard was well maintained, with a smooth asphalt driveway leading to a large garage that was surrounded by trimmed fences and flower beds. Shining marble stairs led up to a large oak door at the entrance of the house. Impatient to see it from the inside, I began to walk towards it, but my partner held me back. "No, man, we go here." He pointed away from the mansion to a little stone shack that stood humbly in the corner of the courtyard. "Aha," I said with slight disappointment. "This is where Kanja lives and where we sleep," Mohammed explained apologetically. "He is the house guard for the general. I know it's not much, but in Kindia we have a real hotel. It's just one night here, you know." "Sure," I said. "No problem. I could sleep in a chicken shack right about now." Just as I said that, a large black chicken ran past my legs, followed by a flock of its offspring. "Look, here is chicken for you," Mohammed quipped, while leading me inside the little stone hut. It consisted of a small living room with a sofa and a TV, as well as a single bedroom. There was an electric fan buzzing in the corner, and the place looked well kept. Kanja had laid out a paper-thin mattress for himself in the corner of the living room and told us that the bedroom was ours for the night. "I asked Kanja to get food," my partner said, and sent our host on his way out of the gate with money in hand. Starting to feel the strain of my long journey, I sat down on a sturdy metal chair in the courtyard next to a single mango tree that whispered gently in the light wind. "Good Lord," I groaned while lighting a cigarette. "I'm so glad that trip is over." "God bless I," Mohammed said and fell languidly on another chair. "Now we have Mr. Tom here safely so we can rest a little bit." "We sure deserve it," I said while looking up at the star-riddled sky and listening to the singing of the nocturnal animals somewhere in the distance. "I can't believe we'll be here for 5 whole weeks. Man, I wish it was longer." "Me too," he agreed. "But next time then. I have to work also in Finland to try to get money to build my house here." "Oh yeah," I said. "How is your house project getting along?" "It's good. Now I buy the land, so it's starting, slowly. Soon I can be my own boss, no more asking for help and paying rent for some other guy. And you can build your house next to it too, man." "Sweet," I said dreamily. "I would love that. That way I could always escape the Finnish winter and come here." Besides the chicken family, there were also little ducklings and their mother who all ran around frantically in our feet looking for something to eat. This was something I'd never seen before, being an inner-city kid. Even when visiting my uncle's farm in the countryside, I had come to expect that the livestock was always chained and locked up carefully. We finished smoking and went to see the bedroom. There was just one big bed with gaudy sheets laid on top of it. I could see Kanja's clothing hanging from the hooks and his personal things on the little tables and shelves. It felt like we were stepping into his shoes, forcing the poor man to sleep on the floor. I sure hoped that my partner had compensated him well enough for his trouble. "So we both sleep in that bed?" I asked. "Yeah," Mohammed said, "but only this one night. No problem at all. Where's the toilet, by the way?" "Here." He led me to a rickety wooden door in the corner. Behind it was a combined toilet and a shower room, paved with white tiles that looked meticulously clean. There was no toilet seat, but only a ceramic hole in the corner with foot supports around it. "You make shit here," my partner told me, "and then you take water here," pointing to a plastic bucket with a ladle. "Wash yourself and put more water there in the hole so the shit goes down, okay?" "All right," I said, "thanks." While I was getting acquainted with this novel way of defecation, Mohammed had received from Kanja a black plastic bag that contained fried whole local fish and potato salad tossed inside the bag pell-mell. "Here we go," he said as I finally re-emerged. "Food time." We made a hefty feast of it by eating with our hands, using pieces of white baguette to dip into the rich chili sauce. It was sublime, to say the least, topped with Coke on the side. "Conakry is right by the seaside," I said to my partner while munching away, "isn't it?" "Yeah, man," he affirmed. "That's why there is so much good fish here, always." My first meal in Africa. I guzzled the wonderful spicy red sauce with infinite pleasure, and could only wonder how my stomach was going to react to it later on. After dinner, I sat in the courtyard again when I heard a flap of wings and saw a fantastically big brown bat flying right above my head. Its wingspan must have been over 3 feet. It encircled the mango tree in front of me effortlessly in graceful aerial pirouettes. I was able to sit right next to it and admire its almost demonic, surreal physique for quite some time. Then, perhaps having caught something to eat from the air or from the tree, it swiftly disappeared back into the black night beyond our walls. I was mesmerized by this primordial vision. Finnish bats, in comparison, were the size of mice, so I had never seen anything like this monstrosity. When Mohammed soon joined me, I said to him, "You know, I just saw a huge bat." "Bat? What is that?" "You know," I said, mimicking flying with my arms. "Like a flying mouse or rat, but huge. It was as big as a cat, like this." I extended my hands to demonstrate its wingspan, trying not to exaggerate, as was my usual habit. My partner's face was drawn in horror. "What the fuck?" he almost shouted, and picked up a fist-sized rock from the ground, approaching the mango tree with swift caution. "What the hell got into you?" I demanded. "That animal is so weird, man," he whispered, while peeking through the branches, his rock raised and ready to be thrown. "I'm telling you, it's black magic animal." "Are you serious?" I asked. "Listen, it's not normal animal. Maybe someone changed into that thing. You see devil things here, man. This is not Europe." He explained to me that people considered such a large bat to be a demon entity, or then a witch doctor who had undergone shape-shifting. Perhaps the general had some powerful enemies in the spirit world. I thought all that was very exciting, but only hoped that the magnificent nocturnal beast wouldn't return and have its head split by a rock thrown in the name of superstition. But then again, maybe there was some point in that belief after all. The creature certainly had seemed to emerge straight out of Hades, with its massive snout, long fangs, and pointed ears. "You want to take a shower?" my partner asked me after he had made sure that the apparition did not reappear, dropping the rock back on the ground with relief. "You have soap?" "No," I admitted embarrassedly. "I didn't bring much anything because I thought I'd buy the stuff over here. Just my guitar, books, laptop, and a couple of clothes is all I have." "No problem, man. I have extra toothpaste and shampoo here. You can use that." The shower I took was pretty cold, but the night air was so warm that it didn't bother me much at all. In Finland, the showers were cozy and warm, but the air, in turn, was mostly cold and dry, which devastated the skin of the mouth, face, and fingers like gangrene. After the shower, I climbed in the bed next to Mohammed, who was already fast asleep on his side of the bed, completely relaxed despite our close proximity, in a way that told of him having lived in very crowded spaces before. This for me was completely new, having been the only child in my family with an abundance of space, too much of it even. In retrospect, I would have changed that big lonely room of my childhood for a more crowded living space, because human contact is something that no luxury can replace. But still, after my partner started to snore like a train engine and mumble in his sleep, I placed a quiet prayer that the apartment in Kindia would indeed be more spacious and its toilets more sophisticated. Sleep did reach me soon, nevertheless, since I was so exhausted from the journey. It was a miracle to be still alive, was my last thought for that day. Strange how one forgets that fact so easily back home.